how to build more robust systems. It's not just about technology, it's about human behaviour. We called this new research area Web Science, for good or bad, and we launched WWWForum. It felt like jumping off a cliff and not knowing if we were going to fly or sink without trace. Judging by the number of people here at this conference, I think we are safely in the climb now. And those of you that know me know I hate takeoff. So we're safely in the climb. The main aims of WWWForum are to further research, education, and thought leadership in web science, and to train future generations of web scientists. Web science is very interdisciplinary, and we've tried really hard to bring together people at this conference from many different disciplines, not just computer scientists, but social scientists, lawyers, economists, philosophers, psychologists, political scientists, etc., etc. Different research cultures, all interested in the same problems and challenges. And what better place to hold our first conference than in Athens, the cradle of democracy, and in a wonderful new centre dedicated to preserving cultural heritage in the digital age. We were so excited when George Metakides introduced us to the Hellenic Cosmos Institute and they offered to host this conference. Without their support and the hard work of the local organising committee led by Michalis Vavopoulos, who in fact translated our book, A Framework for Web Science, into Greek, which started all this off, this conference would not have happened and we would not have been able to keep our costs so low, which at this difficult time is so important. Considering the problems that people have in finding money to travel at the moment, it's wonderful to see so many people here from so many different parts of the world, all eager to discuss this new subject, which we took that leap of faith about just 2 years ago. So on behalf of the Web Science Research Initiative, I would like to thank our hosts, our distinguished guests, all our sponsors for helping us make this conference possible. And above all, I would like to thank you for coming to be present at the birth of web science. It's now up to all of us to help it grow and mature into a subject that will make a real difference to the world. Thank you.
Και ερχόμαστε στον επόμενο ομιλητή και εκεί πού να αρχίσει κανείς και πού να τελειώσει. If there ever was a case where making an introduction is bound to be saying too little and too much at the same time, this is certainly the one. Let me just take a few phrases from his CV, which is unusual in the sense that it's not, let's say, the standard serious CV that says, you know, the person did this and did that. And in a way, in reading it, I thought he was speaking. I could hear him speak. So here it goes. He spent 1.5 years as an independent consultant, including a 6-month stint in 1980 as a consultant software engineer at CERN, at the European Particle Physics Laboratory in Geneva, where he wrote for his own personal use, his first program for storing information called Enquire, which was the conceptual basis for what was to follow. This was in 1980. Then, making a leap in time, his own words again, he did lots of stuff. That's vintage Tim. He did lots of stuff in between until 1989, where again at CERN, and with characteristic modesty, these are not his words, he proposed the global hypertext project, which was later known as, guess what? The World Wide Web. This was implemented first at CERN and then worldwide in 1991, and the rest is, as they say, history. Let me read you a short passage from his book, Weaving the Web, or rather from the introduction to his book, that was written by another diasporic compatriot of ours, Michael Dertouzos, the late Michael Dertouzos. So he's talking about Tim, and he says, "When I first met Tim, I was surprised by another unique trait of his. As technologists and entrepreneurs were launching or merging companies to exploit the web, they seemed fixated on one question: how can I make the web mine? Meanwhile, Tim was asking, how can I make the web yours?" I think, Mr. Minister of Culture, this answers a question that you asked me earlier in the corridor. So, here's a man who, having already made his mark in this century, is not the kind to bask in glory or metaphorically to polish his many medals, but continues, now in the context of WSRI, to lead the way towards the development of this exceptional artifact that is the web. Ladies and gentlemen, the inventor of the web and an exceptional human being, Sir Tim Berners-Lee.
Your Excellency, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very special time and place. As you've heard of some of the preparations which have been made for this, and of how web science involves people from all disciplines coming together from different sides. We've talked about it for a long time, but this is the first web science conference. This is where, if you like, web science is now being born. We've watched its gestation in some workshops, but here we are at what is, hopefully, the birth of a new field. We're in a very special place, as Wendy mentioned, which has been has seen the birth of a lot of thinking back through the ages. So, it's a time to celebrate. But it's a time to celebrate, and it's a time to look forward. But I'm going to start now from this vantage point, looking back, answering some of the questions that people ask me in the hallway. One of them is, okay, so what made you do it in the first place? In fact, it's a good question, but in fact, it was going back almost exactly 20 years. I wrote the first memo about the web, and what really led to it was frustration. I was working at a wonderful place, CERN, the European Particle Physics Lab in Geneva. People there come also from all over. They were almost all physicists, mathematicians, computer scientists, but engineers. They come from all over the world to make these huge machines, and they put together different pieces. And hopefully, when they put them together, they'll fit together and they'll do high-energy physics. But to make them all fit together, they have to understand each other's pieces. And of course, they come with different computer systems. They all come from different universities. They bring different documentation systems, different word processors. And so back 20 years ago, in 1989, my frustration as a software engineer